Groundhog Day film. Groundhog Day is a 1993 American fantasy comedy film directed by Harold Ramis from a screenplay by him and Danny Rubin and starring Bill Murray, Andie MacDowell, and Chris Elliott. Murray portrays Phil Connors, a cynical television weatherman covering the annual Groundhog Day event in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, who becomes trapped in a time loop, forcing him to relive February to repeatedly. The film also stars Stephen Tobolowsky, Brian Doyle Murray, Marta Jarity, Angela Patton, Rick Ducommun, Rick Overton, and Robin Duke. American fantasy comedy film by Harold Ramis. Rubin conceived the outline of Groundhog Day in the early years. He wrote it as a spec script to gain meetings with producers for other work. It eventually came to the attention of Ramis, who worked with Rubin to make his idea less dark in tone and more palatable to a general audience by enhancing the comedy. After being cast, Murray clashed with Ramis over the script. Murray wanted to focus on the philosophical elements, whereas Ramis concentrated on the comic aspects. Principal photography took place from March to June 1992 almost entirely in Woodstock, Illinois. Filming was difficult, in part because of bitterly cold weather but also because of the ongoing conflict between Ramis and Murray. Groundhog Day was considered a box office success on its release, earning over $105 million to become one of the highest-grossing films of 1993. It also received generally positive reviews. Reviewers were consistent in praise for the film's successful melding of highly sentimental and deeply cynical moments and for the philosophical message beneath the comedy. It received multiple award nominations and won a BAFTA award for Best Original Screenplay. For all its success, the film marked the end of Ramis and Murray's long collaborative partnership, which produced films like Caddyshack 1980 and Ghostbusters 1984. The pair did not speak after filming until shortly before Ramis's death in 2014. The film was a showcase for Murray, previously seen only as a comic actor. His performance led to more serious lead roles in critically acclaimed films in the years since its release. The film has grown in esteem and is often considered to be among the greatest films of the years and one of the greatest comedy movies ever. It also had a significant impact on popular culture. The term Groundhog Day, meaning a monotonous, unpleasant, and repetitive situation, became part of the English lexicon. The film has been analyzed as a religious allegory by Buddhist, Christian, and Jewish scholars. Groundhog Day is also credited with the mainstream acceptance of comedy films featuring fantasy genre elements. In 2006, the United States Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the National Film Registry. Groundhog Day has been adapted into a 2016 musical and a 2019 video game sequel, Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son. Legacy. A floor-position plaque in Woodstock, Illinois commemorating the pothole Bill Murray's character steps in during Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is considered one of the most beloved comedy films ever made, an all-time classic, and a pop culture touchstone. In 2020, Paste described it as having a mythic, permanent pop cultural status reserved for few films. The film's success made Ramis a credible comedy director, opening up more creative opportunities for him. Over the rest of the years, he would direct as Multiplicity, also starring MacDowell, Analyze This, and Zbedazzled. Groundhog Day also showcased Murray's capabilities as an actor, changing perceptions of him as a comedian to a broad-ranged actor and credible romantic lead. His performance is seen as a transitioning point to later roles in serious films like Rushmore 1998, his Academy Award-nominated performance in Lost in Translation, and Moonrise Kingdom 2012. Rubin started a blog in 2007 that featured fictional conversations between himself and Phil Connors, who had since retired to live on a mountainside near Taos, New Mexico. Rubin taught screenwriting at Harvard University for several years. Its impact on Woodstock and Punxsutawney was lasting and significant. Since the film's release, Woodstock has hosted its own Groundhog Day festivals. These have included Groundhog Woodstock Willie, screenings of the film, and walking tours of filming locations. The town attracts approximately 1,000 tourists for its yearly event, which has featured appearances by Albert, Rubin, and Tobolowsky. Punxsutawney, which once drew only a few hundred visitors to its festival, has since attracted tens of thousands. The year following the film's release, over 35,000 people visited the town for Groundhog Day. Residents appreciate the film's impact on the town, but assert that their focus remains on Punxsutawney Phil and the long-lived festival. In Woodstock, plaques are positioned at key locations used in the film, commemorating moments including Phil meeting Ned, the pothole in which Phil trips, and the town square pavilion where Phil and Rita share a dance. As of 2016, Rubin continued to receive mail from fans, philosophers, and religious leaders. Their content ranged from simple letters to sermons and dissertations. He has spoken of psychiatrists who recommend the film to their patients, and addicts who have told him that it helped them realize they were trapped in a repeating cycle of their own. Sometime after the film's release, Murray changed his opinion about it. He called it probably the best work I've done, adding, and probably the best work Harold will ever do. In 2018, Tobolowsky said, "I think performance in Groundhog Day will stand as one of the greatest comedic performances of all time. He is able to be both antagonist and protagonist at the same time in the same film. He's everything that's horrible and everything that's wonderful. I think it's gonna stand up as long as films are made." Groundhog Day is considered one of the greatest films ever made. Rotten Tomatoes assesses a high percentage approval rating from the aggregated reviews of 140 critics, with an average rating of, the consensus reads, "smart, sweet, and inventive." Groundhog Day highlights Murray's dramatic gifts while still leaving plenty of room for laughs. The film has a score of 72 out of 100 on Metacritic based on 15 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. In 2004, The New Yorker called it Rames's masterpiece. In 2005, as part of his The Great Movies series, Ebert raised his original score for the film from 3 stars to a full 4 stars. In this updated review, Ebert said that he had underestimated the film and noted that Murray's performance was essential to making the film work. That same year, Jonah Goldberg called it one of the best films of the previous 40 years, positioning it alongside It's a Wonderful Life as one of America's most uplifting and timeless films. In 2009, literary theorist Stanley Fish listed it as one of the 10 best American films. He wrote, "The comedy and the philosophy, how shall one live, do not sit side by side, but inhabit each other in a unity that is incredibly satisfying." It is listed in the 2013 film reference book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, which says Bill Murray gives what may be the best and warmest performance of his career in this genius, considerably the best of the ers. The Guardian attributes its lasting appeal to its use of a classic redemption arc like Ebenezer Scrooge in the 1843 novella A Christmas Carol, and its refusal to explain why the loop occurs, making it less like a typical mainstream film. In 2000, the American Film Institute (AFI) ranked Groundhog Day number 34 on its 100 Years Laughs list, recognizing the best comedy films. In 2005, the film's screenplay was listed as the 27th greatest screenplay of the preceding 75 years on the Writers Guild of America's WGA 101 Greatest Screenplays list. In a 2008 AFI poll of 1,500 industry members, Groundhog Day was ranked as the 8th best fantasy film. That same year, Empire listed the film at number 259 on its list of the 500 greatest movies of all time. In 2014, a poll of 2,120 entertainment industry members by The Hollywood Reporter ranked it the 63rd best film of all time. In 2015, the screenplay was listed as the 3rd funniest on the WIS 101 Funniest Screenplays list, positioning it behind Some Like It Hot 1958 and Annie Hall 1977. In 2017, the BBC polled 253 critics, 118 female, 135 male from across 52 countries on the funniest film made. Groundhog Day came fourth, behind Annie Hall, Dr. Strangelove 1964, and Some Like It Hot. Several publications have ranked it as one of the greatest comedy films of all time, including number 1 by Empire 2019, number 5 by Time Out, number 10 by Rotten Tomatoes, number 11 by IGN, number 18 by Paste, number 23 by The Daily Telegraph, and unranked by Film School Rejects and Vogue. Rotten Tomatoes also listed the film number 86 on its list of 200 essential movies to watch. Similarly, it has been ranked as one of the greatest films of the ers, including number 4 by IndieWire, number 5 by Slate, number 11 by Rolling Stone, number 12 by Shortlist, number 15 by the AV Club, number 28 by Rotten Tomatoes, number 41 by Slant Magazine, number 55 by the British Film Institute, and unranked by Time Out. Andie MacDowell with a Groundhog on Groundhog Day. Or William Goldman in 1993 said, "I think Groundhog Day is the one that will be of all the movies that came out this year. It's the one that will be remembered in 10 years. The same year, Desson Thompson opined Groundhog will never be designated a national film treasure by the Library of Congress. In 2006, the film was selected by the United States Library of Congress to be preserved in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Several filmmakers have spoken of their appreciation for Groundhog Day or cited it as an inspiration in their own careers, including David O. Russell, Terry Jones, and Jay Roach. Roach called it the film that changed him. Gillian Wearing called it one of her favorite films, citing its unusual structure and intelligent philosophical message. The film's success helped to legitimize the use of fantasy in mainstream comedy films, laying the groundwork for future fantasy comedies such as Liar Liar 1997, The Truman Show 1998, and Click 2006. The phrase Groundhog Day has become a common term to reference a repetitive, unpleasant, and monotonous situation. It is recognized by dictionaries under two definitions: the holiday itself and a situation in which events are or appear to be continually repeated. The term's use is such that it has been defined as a clique to refer to a situation in this way. It has been invoked sometimes inaccurately by singers, sports stars, comedians, actors, politicians, archbishops, and former Guantanamo Bay detention camp inmates. Then-President Bill Clinton referenced the film in a 1996 speech to troops stationed in Bosnia. The term was used during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic to refer to the monotony of quarantine and isolation associated with attempts to stem the spread of the virus. Narrative concept of someone trapped in a repeating segment of time can be traced back to 1904 and is a popular trope, particularly in science fiction. Groundhog Day was responsible for popularizing the idea to the general public. Time loops have since been used in several films, including Nake in 2000, Source Code 2011, Edge of Tomorrow 2014, Happy Death Day 2017 and its sequel, and Palm Springs 2020. Television shows including Russian Doll, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and The X-Files, and video games including The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, Outer Wilds, and Deathloop. These narratives often involve a central flawed character who must evolve to escape their chronological imprisonment. The influence of Groundhog Day such that TV tropes refers to this narrative arc as the Groundhog Day loop. Rubin noted that with his script, he stumbled upon a story with all the makings of a classic, so simple and true that it could be retold many different ways by many different storytellers. It has been referenced across a range of media, including the 1998 novel About a Boy, the music video for the Craig David song 7 Days, and the Doctor Who audio drama Flip Flop that features a time loop on the planet Punxsutawney. Writing for IGN, Michael Swaim postulated that since Groundhog Day popularized the time loop narrative, it had increased in mainstream popularity in part due to the Flynn effect, a statement on the increasing IQ of the population that meant audiences could easily follow the more complex narratives, and the desire for nostalgia in the postmodern era of the early 21st century. In February 2, 2016, fans in Liverpool, England, gathered to watch the film repeatedly for 24 hours. Since February to that year, apart from 2017, Sky Cinema has played the film on repeat for 24 hours. In 2018, the New York Museum of Modern Art debuted a series of films chosen by polling 35 literary and religious scholars, which started with Groundhog Day. There was conflict between the scholars as so many of them wanted to write about the film for the presentation. Adaptations. See also Groundhog Day musical. Tim Minchin left in 2012 and Matthew Warchus in 2014. They worked alongside Danny Rubin to create the Groundhog Day musical. A direct sequel was ruled out shortly after the film's release in 1993. Rubin also holds a story credit on the 2004 Italian remake of Groundhog Day, called Get Eerie, translated as It's Already Yesterday, and commonly known as Stork Day. When asked about a sequel in 2018, McDowell said it would never happen because I know he's not going to do it. Despite this, Murray, Tobolowsky, and Doyle Murray reprised their roles in a commercial for the Jeep Gladiator played during Super Bowl LIV on February 2, 2020. Filmed in Woodstock, the commercial recreates scenes from the film and features Murray again trapped in a time loop. He uses the Jeep Gladiator to explore Punxsutawney alongside Punxsutawney Phil. Murray called it his first and last commercial. In April 2020, Jeep released a series of modified versions of the advert to promote social distancing during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Murray provided creative input on the edit in the years since the film's release. Rubin had worked on a musical adaptation of Groundhog Day, partly out of boredom and partly because a musical was not covered by the rights he had signed over to Columbia. In 2003, Stephen Sondheim expressed interest creating a musical, but this project was never realized. When Matthew Warchus and Tim Minchin approached Rubin in 2012, he had already developed a narrative outline, jokes, and a refined list of 12 songs. He had been unable to progress the idea further without a composer. Coming off the success of Matilda the musical, Warchus and Minchin collaborated with Rubin for several years to produce the Groundhog Day musical. The musical debuted in August 2016 at the Old Vic Theatre in London to generally positive reviews. A Broadway version started running in 2017. The show was nominated in several categories at the 2017 Laurence Olivier Awards, winning Best Actor and Best New Musical. Murray attended a Broadway show in 2017 alongside Doyle Murray and Rubin. A video game narrative sequel was released in September 2019. Groundhog Day, Like Father Like Son, was developed by Tequila Works and published by Sony Pictures Virtual Reality for PlayStation VR, Oculus Rift, and HTC Vive. The game casts players as Phil's son, Phil Connors Jr., who has grown up in the shadow of his beloved father. Phil Jr. becomes trapped in his own time loop in Punxsutawney and is forced to help others and improve himself to earn his freedom. It received mixed critical reviews.